Well, welcome everybody to Artrooms. This is the 5th year, and I'm I think sort of very happy and sort of honoured to do the 2nd year of Artist in Bed, and we're in the Media Hotel, and Artrooms has started Friday and it goes on to Sunday, and I've got 2 wonderful artists either side of me in the bed. There's Juliette Pearce and Sebastian Chaumeton. So it's a wonderful and coincidental that we're actually going to start off with Juliette, because this is the cover of the magazine, and you did it. So that's a perfect place to sort of start, as Mary Poppins says. You start at the very beginning. And if there's anything that I say that needs tweaking, then so you go and tweak.
Of course, yeah.
So you are French South African?
Yeah.
And you're living in Florence?
Yes, I've been there for 6 years now. 6
years. And how do you find that?
I love it, absolutely love it. The light there is wonderful. We've got space in the studio, and the people are very kind, and it's a living museum anyway, so it's a nice place to be.
Okay. I mean, what I'd like to ask you, it's good that you mentioned the light, because obviously this is a laundromat. So how did the light affect you when you were painting this?
So the subjects are in real places, and this one was actually in the UK, not very far from here, Marylebone Street, just around the corner. So the light is interior in this one, so it's not as important. But when I'm working in the actual studio, I do need good light to see what I'm doing and understand how the colours are reacting on the canvas.
Right. And sort of in part of what you said about the laundromat and your work, you use the word outlandishness and sort of bringing the viewer into your work. So how do you think that sort of happens, and how do you get the viewer to sort of come in to look at it, because your work is a place where there's no humans, and you kind of like say that, but obviously it's built by humans.
Yes.
So can you expand on that?
So they are always places that are used by humans, so they're useful places. They're not necessarily beautiful landscapes that are just pretty to look at. They're actually places that people interact in and have to go to. And so my hope is, seeing them devoid of people, that you've got a sense that they probably were used by people, they have been in there, and they're not currently there, but they might be coming back. So hopefully it's that fleeting moment when it's kind of resting in between the action of people. And the other hope I have is that people then bring their own memories and experiences to, if they've also been to a laundromat, for example, and have their own memories in that respect.
So how does that work? Because they bring their clothes and...
Well, so I've had a few people interacting and telling me stories about when they were students, and this really kind man said he only had grey clothes because he mixed them all together. So there was something about the laundromat that brought his memories back and other people's memories. So I hope that, because they're quite distilled and simple and almost abstracted, that it will bring the idea of a laundromat in general to the viewer, and that you could then bring your own associations to it.
Right. So do you think that the laundromat is in everybody's DNA, and they kind of like have used it at some point?
I think it depends on like generation. A lot of people have been saying that student accommodation didn't used to have laundromats, but I guess now we're a bit more spoiled, so maybe it is. But there are so many scenes of films and movies, and it's quite an interesting place, because as you wait, there are conversations that happen. There are moments where you can reflect and think. And I hope that in the painting, because it's devoid of people, that you can maybe think, what happened there? What could happen? Or what conversations were there as you're waiting for the dryer to go?
Sounds wonderful, really. No, I think we've probably all used a laundromat. Even if you've got like a washing machine that's sort of spinning round, and suddenly it stops, and and it may take a little time to repair. So I mean, maybe. And what other areas do sort of, so we've got the laundromat, so our audience can have an example of your work, because they can see the laundromat, but what
other places?
Yeah.
I've got a petrol station. I think we've all had to refuel once in a while. There are lots of sports venues. I've got a squash court, a tennis court. I've got a set of swings, because I think a lot of people will have also got childhood memories associated to that. There's also a tennis court, different ones. At the moment I'm quite interested in like metallic structures. So I've got a gas meter structure, which I took a photo of in Rome, and I think that's kind of a slight departure from that.
No, so that's an old-fashioned gas?
Yes, it is, yeah, yeah.
And so what about I mean, so do you like, when you see the object, do you like the materials of the gas? I mean, is that what appeals to you?
I definitely like metallic structures, especially when they're really fine. They appear to be quite delicate.
Yeah.
I'm also in complete awe because I don't have an engineering mind, so I just see how well constructed it has been, and I'm just kind of admiring its like visual structure, and it's also beautifully geometric, which I try and capture in the paintings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting you say like you don't have an engineering mind, but you've got an understanding how the sort of like the architecture and a passion for sort of, you're going to put your time and energy to produce artworks. You sort of maybe feel it from
yes,
you know.
definitely.
And well, one of the general questions, which sort of fits into sort of what you do, because you travel around and you find different objects and spaces that inspire you. So, is there anything in your sort of travels? Is there any funny things that sort of ever happened, because we're in a hotel room?
Yeah.
In a hotel room that you can tell our audience, because I think they would like to know.
About how I came to find a place.
Well, anything funny while you were in a hotel room?
Oh, in a hotel room.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay if they.
I'm about to do a painting of the wonderful lobby carriages where as we arrived here, it was amazing. The staff was so kind and helped us move all of our artwork from the ground floor up to our rooms, and they had these beautiful lobby carriages. And that is one that I'm planning to paint, because I find, again, the metal structure of that to be really beautiful, and they are useful objects, but they are also really quite fun and quirky, and when you see a mass of them, they're quite fun. So that's my next hotel-related painting, I think.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, some hotel rooms give you sort of different feelings. I mean,
Yes.
this is quite an intimate room.
Yeah.
So it's great that all the artworks are around us, because you can get a really sort of feel for sort of what you're seeing. So like people and artists, I mean, because your work sort of has a little bit of about I mean, it's got other elements, but sort of like the Picasso is about it and stuff. So are there artists that have inspired you? I mean, you may not have taken their work, but you know, that sort of have driven you on to sort of paint the laundromat and so forth.
Yeah, I think I absolutely love David Hockney, and I think his photography work and the exploration of how he did the Joiner series in the 80s, and he was really exploring perspective and how you could create a painting with multiple photographs. And so when I go to a place, if it doesn't fit in my single frame, I will always try and use his technique, which is to rotate around the space, moving the camera. So you never end up with a single perspective, but it's kind of warped, but it's a truer rendition of your experience being in front of it than just having a single lens do the job for you. So he's been very instrumental in that way, and I mean, I like his work, but that particular moment in his life that he was exploring that, I found fascinating.
So when you view, I suppose the easiest to ask this, I mean, we've got the picture of the laundromat. So when you went inside this laundromat, and there was nobody in it, and there was no spinning around. So what did you see? I mean, do you see, as you're an artist, did you see more than other people? I mean, have you got like a 365 plus 1 degrees view of what you're seeing, or you know? So because I mean, you painted that, and that sort of.
Well, I've changed the colours.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of the original, and it's like super metallic and grey. and there was something a bit monotonous about it. So I definitely played on that to like perhaps bring more excitement to the venue. But yeah, I think my mind loves geometric, well-planned position objects, and those benches were quite perfect. I mean, it takes me a while to move around the space and then really find a perspective that I enjoy. So if I have found a space I love, yeah, it definitely doesn't, the imagery doesn't come straight away.
So I mean, something that's just entered my mind. I mean, so when you painted the laundromat, I mean, did you take a photograph or did you stay in there for sort of?
I took a picture. Yeah, I took a picture. I mean, I'd love to be able to stay there, but I guess people would be in the way.
Which laundromat was that? A UK laundromat?
Yes, so it's down the road. It's just in Monaghan. Yeah.
Let's go and try. I mean, it looks really. If any of you need any washing, just have a look at that. I mean, we're not going to be sort of too controversial at all. So we just wanted, because we're so near the vote for Brexit and all that sort of what's going on. So just wanted like sort of 30 seconds a minute how you felt Brexit would affect the art industry. It might affect you. Or
yeah, it's interesting. I think transporting work will be very different. Obviously, it will be probably more costly. I mean, I suppose it'll be a good thing for the UK because it will, bring its UK artists to a different level, but perhaps eliminate some other people coming in. So that's a little bit sad in that respect. But we are international people and we do travel and we move things around, and this is a really good example of it. So fingers crossed we continue with that and it doesn't close down too many doors, but it's quite difficult to tell, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll probably be sort of, as whatever happens, there'll be sort of pluses and minuses, but sort of art and culture is sort of like international. So what with the internet, so it can sort of evade the borders of sort of things that might get closed off. And I'm sure people have asked you this, but sort of it's nice to have sort of young artists, so it's worth asking the question. I mean, not exactly, but I mean, like, how do you feel, and where do you think you'll be in about 5 years and 1 day's time?
So I'm French, my husband is British, and we live in Italy, and our current passion is to stay in Italy.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will still be there in 5 years, but you never know.
and sort of work-wise, what would you see that the future is with your art career?
I think I'd continue working from there because I like having a space where I can work with great light and I am inspired there. And I think your workplace is so key to what you're going to produce. So if you've got a fantastic place that works for you, then you can actually move and then bring it to cities that give you the opportunities to show them. So that has worked for me, and I know other artists prefer being in the center of something that is constantly busy. But I guess it depends on your practice, maybe.
Right. Okay, and so very briefly, before we go on to Sebastian, is there a great deal of difference to the art scene in sort of here and in Florence?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
What would you say in a nutshell it is?
The beauty of Florence is that it's anchored in tradition, and I think in terms of portraiture, if one wanted to study there, it's probably one of the best places to do that. So I do have many artist friends there, but perhaps their subjects are quite different, and it's a lot more traditional. So it's a completely different atmosphere.
And what about sort of light and that? Is it better light there?
Yes, definitely. A bit more of it helps.
Well, I think. Okay, I'm just going to find Sebastian. I'm sorry I called you.
That's all right.
Sam. It's just names and everything. And it just, I mean, it is quite sort of. Because you've got a picture in here.
Yeah.
Because maybe not everybody has seen the catalogue. I mean, it's not all the same with the artists, but this is Sebastian. So I'm doing a panoramic. Okay.
Those are also my works.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Okay. So it wasn't sort of tons of information on
No,
on you, which
pretty brief.
was quite interesting. And are you working around the building?
No, so I'm still studying. I'm at Chelsea. I'm in my third year. So this is I did the installation up the staircase, and on the last night I was doing live performance art, so sort of painting what people suggested as they come up the stairs and what was on their mind or what they just wanted to see me paint for them there and then. So I was sort of accumulating everyone's thoughts and feelings around the evening.
Okay, I mean that's quite an interesting area. So, if somebody said paint whatever it was A, and somebody says paint Z, not as A and Z, but sort of different suggestions, do you just go ahead and paint it?
I sort of act as a filter, so I won't. Sometimes in the past I have got some like outrageous things and things that I wouldn't necessarily think were appropriate for painting on things, but sometimes I fuse things that people say, so if something I feel doesn't grab me straight away, I might fuse it with someone else's idea, and that's what I really like, sort of offsetting that context of my practice, so my fine art sort of originating for a space of sort of collective thinking, that it's not just myself that sort of started the work, and then I take things that I find interesting, be it socially, politically, or just purely aesthetically, and then those take their own path, mainly in 3 dimensions, but it's mainly
how do you achieve that? The 3
so I'm mainly a ceramicist on the side
Yes.
of the paintings that I do, so
Yeah.
I make a lot of large ceramic sculptures that sort of solidify the sort of thoughts and ideas, so I like to sort of give value to the ideas that, whatever they may be, are coming out. So I'm really interested in making mechanical ceramics, so ceramics that's moving. So I'm still developing that, and obviously I've got an end of year show coming up, but that's sort of still in the works, and there's a lot to still figure out. But these are like me processing, so like mentally throwing up my ideas. I just sort of throw it all out on the canvas and then pick out the good bits.
So, I mean, in your sort of work and shows, is there sometimes like a combination of other people's suggestions and sort of and your own ideas that's not fused with anything else?
Yeah, I feel like it's mainly the fusion comes from the initiating point of the idea. So I do these murals publicly, and it's from those that then I take it more under my own wing to progress that into something that I find more interesting. But I like that element of chance that the public bring from conversation and writing things down, because as I do them, the larger ones that I've done, obviously anyone's allowed to say anything.
And how large are the larger ones?
Oh, I've done one that's sort of this whole wall, maybe a bit more to the right and a little bit taller. But I want to go bigger and bigger, so...
How big? Do you want to do sort of like...
I want to...
I don't know.
I would love to go huge. Ideally, I've got a vision to take it to a gallery space that's got huge walls, and then outlined a character, and then throughout months, or maybe weeks, I paint what the visitors want me to, and then at the private views at the end of it all, and it's one big performance that then is just filled with everyone's
And are people
feelings.
who've given you like sort of suggestions, maybe you can't bring everybody, but do you invite the people to come and see how their suggestions transformed?
I'm pretty fast when I paint, so I quite like to do it there and then for them. So I've had cases down in King's Cross when I've had little families come by and the little kid shouts something out they wants to draw, and I'll just do it there and then, and they pick up the kid and he's just watching me paint, which is really lovely. Like I love doing it as almost a performative piece that it really cements them in that moment with me, and then they see that for weeks to come. They walk past it every day. There's like a bit of that moment and them.
So you might have transformed people's lives in a sense that maybe some of this is sort of serendipity for the people who are there at the time or whatever, and everybody feels different things at different times, and people might not think they're creative, and because of you in a nice way, I mean because of you.
Yeah, no.
You know, because you're a nice chap. So you just say you could have transferred people's lives because they've given you a suggestion, and you've made it into an art form, and that is a physical thing. That if it's on a wall or something, they don't have to buy it. They can just come and
and
see
enjoy it. And I like that it's connecting a lot of different people. There's that bottom line that everyone's got all these different ideas, but at the end of the day, there's this overriding image that is encompassing everyone's.
So what makes you want to be a connector? Because a lot of artists like to sort of just paint in their sort of garage, or do what they do in like writers and stuff. But you seem to want to sort of be out there having a conversation with the world.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think that's great.
I think art's really important to bring out to the public. I think it's very. I think it can change people's perspectives and ideas around spaces and environments, and to have that sort of work cemented in local communities or areas and have those things that connect, people that maybe you've never met before, but they have that common thing to fall back on. Is really what art's about, in my opinion.
It is.
Yeah.
I couldn't put that better. So I mean, one of the interesting things which I'd like you to expand on, because I'm not quite sure. Which is good, because if you give people less, then I can ask you more.
Yeah.
So it says you do live site specific painting sessions, and is that with like an audience of anybody getting involved in painting?
So that's more. I usually have a big chalkboard or a piece of paper when I first started it, and I would just start painting, and then people would pass, and then I would just either talk to them or just tell them to write something down. And then I just accumulate a long list of things, and then I just go back and forth and chop and change and choose what I see, and then fuse it or not. Or sometimes people are very descriptive in what they want. I've had a ladybug fighting a cat with lightsabers, or it can be completely bonkers, or it can be really. Sometimes they leave it really open and vague and just sort of ethereal, or just like an adjective or some sort of word. But it all comes together in some sort of big mishmash.
So in what you said before, which was quite interesting, and we went quite fast, is that you said you like these different areas like politics and culture and whatever, work within the work that you're doing. Can you? I suppose what I'm trying to say in a way is, can you mix the two, a serious subject and maybe not a frivolous subject, but it could be.
Now I feel like the sort of the unserious subjects or the more light-hearted things sometimes sort of nullify the more serious one and make it more approachable to talk about or think about. By fusing the two, you sort of give access to the one that's more hard to talk about, perhaps.
Okay, and I mean, I'd like to ask, because you're like still studying and doing it. So the question that I asked Juliette, I mean, where do you think, like sort of work-wise, where do you want to be, like in if you had a crystal ball, like in 5 years' time?
I mean,
would you still like to be on this bed talking?
Maybe.
we could just stay here.
Yeah. No, I'd love to. I want to be an artist. I know that it's not a very straight path, but my work is quite illustrative, so it has opportunities that I've been taking recently that are quite graphical and commercial based. But there's always that fine art side that I'm going to return to, and I could see myself finishing this year. And I haven't applied for a master's because I'd quite like to look forward to that. I've been sort of in education for quite some time, and I want to make it sort of see if I can make it work for a bit. So just accumulating art and then just throwing it at people and seeing if it sticks, and if something does, then that just leads to the next thing.
So how do you feel? I mean, you're a good person to actually ask this question, because you're sort of like studying and all that stuff. So how do you feel that the art industry is in sort of dealing with emerging artists? I mean, do you think it's a huge problem, or or it's easier to get into a gallery, or you're just going to go into art fairs? I mean, how do you feel about the industry at this stage of your life?
Yeah, I think it's mainly about exposing yourself. I think it's an attitude that you have to sort of gain to make it work, especially in London. You have to go off your own back and sort of take 3 steps back to get 1 step forward and then those steps get less and less as the more sort of traction you get. But I think it's an exciting time to be like in London. I find that there are a lot of galleries looking for young upcoming artists, and through social media and Instagram you can make work and just promote yourself and sort of become your own promoter, and therefore people would, when the people come to your work, that's when the sort of curators and the galleries start to get interested.
So can you sell work via the Instagram?
You can. Well, I've sold a few pieces, but it's mainly been through Maiden Arts, which has been really helpful for me.
Yeah.
It's just run by the SU, so which helps upcoming artists with it still studying, which is how I've got some of these gigs. But then through those, I've met other people, so it's kind of a networking thing of just putting yourself in those situations, and then it just increases the chances of something happening.
I mean, it's been it's been very fast. Because I looked at watch, and there was a lot more that wanted to ask both of you. But I mean, I don't know. Do both of you know each other? Or you don't know each other.
No.
So do either of you want to ask each other something
sure.
in the last couple of minutes?
I was just wondering about your paintings in the spaces that you choose. Are they very personal to you, or do you go for a more open space that is accessible by more of a general public, or do they have a more personal connection?
So the personal connection is I will have walked there and like had a moment and found that there must be some kind of potential electricity in this space. Sometimes space has been recommended to me and I'll go, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't have the feeling.
Okay.
But it definitely is about like the generic like idea of what these spaces represent, but I need to feel something when I'm there. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you plan it and sometimes you just walk into it and stumble into it. Yeah, which is good.
Could you do me a favour?
Yeah.
There's those papers we've sort of virtually run out of the first time, and I don't know if we're going to get through these questions. So just ask a couple. I mean, you can ask them, and the audience here, wonderful audience here, can answer them if you want. And there is some form of prize, is there not? I don't know. It's a prize maybe you can share, sharing and caring. So what is the name of Banks's famous Girl with a Balloon? Is it Love is in the Air, Love is in the Bin, or Gone?
I'd say it's the last one, I think.
I think it's in the bin.
I think it's gone.
What does the audience think? Our audience out there, a lovely audience.
Love is in the air.
Yeah.
I think love is in the air.
I think
Love
it's
is
in
in
the
the
air.
air.
I think
Yeah.
it's in the air.
Is that from a personal point of view?
I think
In
it's
your
gone.
life?
Maybe.
In your life?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, it's actually the bin.
Oh.
Because that's typical.
Because it was
Pessimistic.
shredded.
Yeah, it's really. And this one is quite interesting. It says, how many times has Salvador Dali been expelled from art school? And was it once, twice, or 5 times? Remember what Salvador Dali is like with his lovely moustache and quirkiness. And
I think it's got to be 5.
Sure. I'll agree.
any other guess?
5.
Okay.
5.
Well, it's amazingly, it's the middle one. It's twice.
I guess they wouldn't take him back after.
Yeah.
Okay. This, where have we got this? I think this will be the last question. We've got to move on to. This is. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
All right. I've got to get the right question. Okay, so who painted this painting? Was it Paul Cézanne, Monet, or Churchill?
Say it again.
Monet, Cézanne, or Churchill? At CC end. A CC or an M?
It's not Monet or Cézanne. I
It's not
think
Monet.
it might be Churchill. I've never seen it.
Churchill.
I think Churchill, yeah.
Does Mr. Churchill get the vote?
Yeah.
Well, you're entirely right. It
Hey.
is. It
Go
is.
on.
And
It's great, actually. It's really nice.
yeah, it is. I mean, I've been to Chartwell and they've kept his studio. It just answers questions in here. I didn't. Vanya kindly did all the questions. She did an excellent job, and they've left his studio as he was. There's a cigar, obviously not lit in his clothes and stuff, and maybe his spirit is still
There, yeah.
is still there. But I would like to thank the both of you for
Pleasure,
starting
thank you.
this
No, thank you.
off, because it's been a really nice balance, you know, in hearing the different sides of the art world that you're involved in. You're the cover shot, and you're the back shot.
From that.
So, Vanessa, how do we deal with the cupcake?
That's half it.
Yeah.
Half a
Or
cup.
10th it.
Yeah, all day long. You receive a little treat.
Actually, I'll give you a quick question while you're doing the cupcake. Some of you might. It's an interesting question. It says, did Leonardo da Vinci paint Jesus' feet in the Last Supper? And the answers are either yes, but no one noticed it. No, he didn't know how to draw it. Yes, but clumsily a builder cut it off. That's A is yes, but nobody noticed it. B is no, he didn't know how to draw it. And C, yes, but a clumsy builder cut it off.
See?
See.
Yeah. Because they refitted things for like different buildings and chopped bits off, didn't they?
So is C the you're going to C?
Yeah.
Well, that's entirely right. So clumsy builder.
Brilliant.
Thank you. And that brings an end to you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so
You're
much.
brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
That was great.
you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay.